So I'm Amy, and I'm here today to speak with Karen and Bec about all of the aspects of grief that I have experienced from a child through to adulthood and how life is looking for me now.
Hi, welcome to Room to Grieve podcast. We're your hosts, Karen and Bec. Grab yourself a cuppa, find a comfortable spot, and we'll journey through grief together.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast. I am quite excited for this one because you and I have spoken on the telephone and we did a quick catch-up call to make sure that the podcast was going to go okay. And I think we ended up speaking for over an hour and a half, and that was just to say hi. So brace yourself for this one because we could be here a while. Yeah. Yeah. And as you said, you have experienced grief from quite a few different angles and from a few different layers, and and your story isn't, as much as it's very sad, it's not all sadness. There is a lot of hope.
No, not at all. I would say life for me has actually been really good. It's just had sad or horrible parts to it. I don't feel like a victim of life or anything like that. I genuinely feel like I've had a really lovely life.
Yeah. I think that kind of lends itself from the whole thing that Cam and I say all the time. As much as grief sometimes feels like it doesn't have any choices, it does have choices, and it
100%.
does have choices in how you choose to sort of carry it every day. But do you want to start by telling us a little bit about your experiences with grief right back from when you were younger? Sort of give us a bit of an overview.
Yeah, so I lost my mum when I was 5. She died from breast cancer. So I was 5, my little brother was 3. Lost her. Don't really remember too much from it. I just remember my dad telling us that she'd passed, and me and Daniel, my brother, saying, "Oh, okay, can we go and play on the Sega Mega Drive now?" Like, it was just so over our heads because, like, back then you didn't experience people being ill. Ill people went to hospital and they didn't, make anyone else feel awkward by their illness. They put their wig on, they hid in a dark room almost. Whereas now I think people wear their illness, not with pride, but they're not embarrassed by it as much.
Yeah.
It's not as much of a stigmatism to not have hair or to have bloated from steroids or from being poorly or in a wheelchair or, anything that comes with being unwell now. But for us, my mum was in hospital most of the time. The last time I saw my mum was Christmas Day. It would have been 1993. And my dad was in the room with her and there was just tubes everywhere. And I remember he had to pick us up and sort of lean us over mum so we could give her a kiss, and she wasn't awake. She was unconscious at that point. And I think that was the day that he was told that she had days left. And me and my brother was outside in the hallway, and, in hospitals, there's that person that comes around with the trolley with like the newspapers and the sweets and stuff. And I remember the lady doing that. And she said to me and my brother, "Don't worry, mummy will be home soon." And I clung to that so much. And obviously she had no idea what she was saying. She was just trying to make us feel better. But then my mum passed away on the 5th of January. And when Dad told us, I thought, but the lady with the chocolate bars told her she was coming home. So in my head, although he'd said she died, I assumed she was still coming home at some point.
Because someone in the hospital told you that.
This is it. Someone told me. So we just carried on, and, I don't know how long went, but I remember now and again saying to Dad, "So is she going to come home now?" And it used to really upset him. And if I cried and said I miss mum, it really upset him, and it upset all the adults in the family. And I learned very quickly not to upset the adults. So you don't ask the questions, you don't get upset, you don't speak about them, you just carry on as if almost they never existed. And all I done was just replay my memories of my mum. And even now I have probably a handful of memories of her, and I replay them still. I'd say on a weekly basis, and they're so silly. Like, one of the memories is her and my dad went on holiday, and my nan and granddad came and babysat me and my brother. And when she came home, her red toenail varnish had turned orange because of the sun. And I remember saying to her, like, Mummy, why are your nails orange? And she said, the sun did it. And that's one of my memories. And one of my other memories is me and my brother sitting on her lap, and she called me her little mermaid, and she called my brother Sebastian. And I remember brushing my hair with a fork.
Oh.
So just really, really silly things. But one of my absolute favourite memories of her, and when I repeat it to my nan says to me, like, she was distraught this day, but she came to pick me up from school. I was only in reception, and she was in a wheelchair. She had no hair. She'd got a wig on. She had a little blanket over her lap, and everyone was staring at her. And I remember being so excited that she was in a wheelchair because she didn't have to walk. I thought that was amazing. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to walk to and from school, and you get pushed. And I remember sitting on her lap, and I was so happy. And she got shown around the school because she hadn't seen what school I was at because she was unwell. And I just remember thinking it was like the coolest thing ever that my mum was at school in a wheelchair with a wig on, with a blanket over her legs. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. I used to tell everyone my mum can take her hair off at night and get into bed. And my nan tells me all the time, like, your mum used to be so embarrassed of it and so ashamed of it, but I wasn't. So as a child, like, it didn't matter what she looked like. She was just my mum, and I thought she was amazing, whether she had hair or not, whether she was walking or not. So yeah, that was my memory of my mum. So growing up, I grew up without my mum. My dad brought me up, and then I had my stepmom who was around until I was 21, and then her and my dad separated. But she was kind of my mum growing up, and I grew up in a blended household. She was divorced. I had a stepbrother and stepsister. And we just had like the best time. We went on family holidays. I'm not saying it was perfect. I'm pretty sure my dad and her were borderline alcoholics sometimes because they would just drink a lot
everybody
of
of
the
that
weekend.
generation was.
I know. I remember my dad coming home with a crate of like 6 bottles of red wine, and they'd be gone by Saturday night, and that would be on the Friday. But it was good memories. So yeah, they split up, and then, you know, moving into adulthood, I met my husband, Brian, and he was going through a divorce. He was 12 years older than me. He was 36 at the time, and I was 23, nearly 24. We got together, we moved in really quick, and then we had our daughter, Penelope. And then in 2018, he got unwell. He had symptoms, I would say, that were quite similar to a hangover. And he kept complaining about it, and he wasn't really a complainer. And after a while, he came home from work one morning, and I said to him, "You're really pissing me off now. Can you just go to the doctors? You keep complaining about, you've got a tummy ache, you've got this, you've got that. You can't hack going out every night and having a couple of beers. You're in your 40s now." And he went to the doctors, and I went off to work, and he rang me a few hours later and said, "Can you come to the hospital?" And I said, yeah, I'll be there when I'm there. And he said, "They think I've got a blood clot." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And I stayed at work for hours, and I thought, he can wait. He pissed me off. So I thought, no, I'm not rushing there. When I got to hospital, I went into whatever department it was he was in. It wasn't A&E. And the medical staff just descended on me. It was like there was 12 people in this cubicle. And I thought, God, this is dramatic. Like, NHS, when do you ever get this amount of doctors around you? And they said, "We think he has leukemia." And I couldn't register what leukemia was. And at that point, I was a project manager. I worked in clinical research, mainly around oncology. So I should instantly know what it is, but I just couldn't get my head around what they were saying. And I said, okay. And the doctor said, it's really bad. Like, his white blood cells are like doubling every couple of hours. He's really poorly. We're trying to get him up to St. Bart's in London. We're just waiting for a bed, and then we'll be blue lighting him there. And I said, okay. And I still couldn't function what was going on. All I thought was, I've got a client meeting in a couple of hours, and I need to hand over my work and this and that, and I need to pick my daughter up. And I couldn't really process it. And I remember the doctor saying to me, "I don't think you understand how serious this is." And I've always, in stressful situations, been super calm. The rest of the time, I'm really flaky. I'm very flappy, but serious things, I can really keep it together. And I remember him saying to me about, you need to really take this in and understand what's going on. And I said, well, what the fuck do you want me to do? Have a breakdown in front of you?
Yeah.
And the doctor's face dropped. Brian was like, Amy. I said, I don't know what you want. Do you want me to cry? Like, I don't know what that's going to achieve. In my head, I'm trying to think, okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Who do I need to call? Who do I need to let know? What do I need to get? Am I going to Bart's now? Am I going there in an hour? Do I need to collect clothes? Like, what do you need? Do you need pajamas? And you need some fresh pants? So I went into like organised straight away. So he was unwell anyway. He went up to Bart's. He had treatment for a few months. He'd done quite a few rounds of chemo. They didn't think he was going to make it. He did make it, and he got the all clear. And they said if it comes back, there's not much we can do.
Okay.
So we went off, we got married, and by the time we got engaged, and by the time we got married a few months later, it come back.
No.
So I married him knowing that we would probably only maybe make our first anniversary. And we didn't. We actually got married in October and he died in the March. But in the meantime, his dad was also fighting cancer. So my father-in-law, we lost my father-in-law in the December, and then we lost my husband in the March. And it was 3 weeks before lockdown. So we had his funeral on the Friday, and Boris announced that he was closing pubs that night, and we were the last funeral of the day. And Brian would have found that hilarious that he got in the pub last. So we were going down the pub for his wake, which was the pub we met at. And our friends, they're the landlord and landlady, and they said, no matter what, we'll stay open for you. We'll call it a private function if we have to. But they were allowed to stay open. So we went down the pub and we just drunk it dry. And we just, car behind the bar, everyone drink up. This is the last time we're going to have a drink for a couple of weeks because, we're all only going into lockdown for 2 weeks, weren't we? And it turned into like forever. But there was little things, even in the point where he was, gone, and very early on, that I could still find the humour in things, and I felt like he was laughing. And I suppose with losing him, my coping mechanism was always dark humour, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think even so, we found out on a Friday night that he was terminal. Because they didn't tell us for ages. They kept saying, we can try this trial, that trial. They were looking into things. So we found out on the Friday night that he was terminal. On the Saturday, we had our friends over for a Turkish. He was drinking beer. He was laughing. He was having TIAs constantly, but no one really knew what was going on yet. But his face was kind of a bit dropped. But I still wasn't too concerned because he was okay. It was only on the Sunday I made him a hot dog and he started choking on it, and he'd had a TIA and he couldn't swallow anymore. And I remember fishing this hot dog out of his throat and saying to him, like, you're an idiot. Did you not chew it properly? And he said, I don't know what's going on, Amy. Like, I just can't swallow. So I gave him a cupcake and he done the same. And he said, I don't know what's going on. So we called an ambulance and they came, and he was just declining quite quickly. But everyone was telling us, you've got about 6 months. So I was thinking, well, we're nowhere near yet. We're only 3 days in. And then the paramedics came and they said we need to get a doctor out, and we had to do a DNR. And that seemed really bizarre to me because I said, what if he starts choking? They said, we'll just make him comfortable. And I said, you'll let him choke to death in front of me and you won't help him? And they said, well, yeah, that's what a DNR is. And I said, well, he's not fucking eating anymore, is he? I'm not having him choke and die on a hot dog. Yeah. But my concern was he was an oromorph, and I couldn't get the oromorph into him. So they said, call the district nurse in the morning. You know the drill with these sort of things. Like, you then have to get the pain relief from them. But he ended up dying on the Monday. So we didn't have end of life care in place at all. He died on my sofa. Luckily our daughter was at a play date, and I rang my friend and said, you've got to keep hold of her. He's dying. And my friend was
so was that quite unexpected?
It was so unexpected. I remember that day being so frantic. Like, I drove to the hospice, which was down the road. And the only reason I knew the hospice was there is because my father-in-law had been in there a couple of months before. Had that not have happened, I would have had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
I went to the GP surgery and they mainly wait until the doctor had their lunch for them to help.
Wow.
And every time I went up to the reception desk, they reminded me that if I get irate with them, they'll ask me to leave. And I said, but he's dying. And they were saying, yeah, we know, we need to do the paperwork. The doctor's very busy and the doctor is entitled to their lunch. And I completely got that. But I was like, I don't think you're understanding. Like, he's declining really quickly. And luckily the hospice helped and they sent someone round. They got everything rolling. They chased the GP up. So a district nurse came round at 2 p.m. and by 4 p.m. he was actively dying and he passed away just before 9 p.m.
Wow.
And it was just bizarre that I'd been laughing with him 48 hours before. I always thought when you were dying, it just was this long, dragged on, drawn out process. And I had to laugh because the hospital had ordered us like the hospital bed and the commode and all of these sort of things. And he passed away and the doorbell rang and I opened the door and it was a delivery man. He said, I've got a hospital bed for you, love. And I went, oh, right. And he said, yeah, should we bring it in? I said, no, you're too late. And he said, oh, has someone already delivered one? No, he's dead. And he said, what? I said, he's dead. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I went, yeah, he's in there on the sofa. He literally has just died. And he just like backed up like, I don't know what to say to you. So yeah, it was really odd. And then I had the same again.
Was like it was happening to somebody else, that it wasn't happening to you?
It didn't seem real. And he was on the sofa. And my lounge at the time my whole downstairs was open plan. So wherever you stood, he was facing you. And my mother-in-law was there and my husband, like Brian's best friend, Lee, was there with us. And Lee's wife had our daughter with her at her house. So it was just really weird that he was there. And after a while, I said, his face is changing. I kept looking at him and I didn't want to touch him anymore. And I took his wedding ring off of him because I wanted to keep hold of that. And we were waiting for the doctor to come and confirm and then the funeral people to come pick him up. And all I panicked about was, is his insides going to melt out and go all over my sofa? I don't know. I just saw everything turn to mush and just kind of dripped out.
Wow,
so I was really
watched
worried
too many
about
movies.
I really had, but I thought, oh my God, what is my sofa going to look like? And in my head, I was like, right, I'm going to have to ring the people that made my sofa and ask them for some new cushions for this sofa. And I remember all I kept saying to my friend Lee was, right, when they hoist him up, can you just put those two cushions, because he was sort of laid between two cushions, he said, can you just chuck them two in a bin bag, stick them out the front for the bin man, and I'll get replacements. And he was like, do you want a cup of tea? I was like, no, the cushions need salting. And I just kept going through like
Isn't
what
it
needed
funny?
to happen.
Yeah.
So I was so fixated on these cushions because I thought, I don't know what I thought I was going to see, like some intestines maybe? I don't know. But in my head, like that was like the worst thing that could happen.
You was
not
dealing
the
with
fact that
something that you could have control on. You thought, right,
yeah. Well, he was gone, so I couldn't do anything with him.
Yeah, and that was probably too much to focus on, that actually it was a lot easier to worry about cushions than it was the dead person on my sofa.
Nothing had sort of prepared you.
No, I had like no, I always thought he was going to hospice when he died. And that was always the plan. But I said to them, when they said he's actively dying, I was like, get him out of the house, get him out of the house. And they said, the second we lift him, he's going to go into cardiac arrest. So he's either going to die lifted or on the sofa. And I went, just leave him. And I was at peace with that then. And actually, I'm really glad he died at home.
Yeah.
Because that was a house
Was
that we...
he aware?
I think he knew at that point. He knew he was terminal. I think he knew that it was going to happen. I think he was more aware of what was going on himself. But he never made a fuss. He never complained. He just never complained. I remember the only time he said something, I was in our daughter Penelope's room And he walked in and he said, "I'm fucked, aren't I?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I'm going to die." And I said, "Babe, no one said that yet. So let's not, jump the gun. There's still trials out there. We'll just see." And he said, "But I am. You know that I am." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not agreeing to that yet. If you put it out there, it's going to happen. So let's not even put it out there." And that was the only time he ever said anything negative. And when people used to say to him after he got, it came back, people would say, "Oh, that's so sad. This is terrible. I can't believe it's happening to you." And he said, "Well, I wasn't supposed to make it through the first lot. So actually, I've got an extra 11 months that I shouldn't have got. And anything from here on out is a positive. It's a plus. It's extra time I got. I got to marry Amy. I got to do this." So he just always had such a positive outlook
Such an
on what was
amazing way
happening.
to be, isn't
Do
it?
you
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
also gave you a false sense that you think, oh, we've beat it once, so they're wrong,
No.
we'll beat it again?
No,
No.
I knew it was
Right.
going. I mean, I'd spoke to clients that were quite heavily focused on blood cancers. I knew what we were looking at. And actually, our doctor confirming that it was terminal was a massive relief, because I knew, and I felt like I could just accept it then. Before, I felt like I was being dramatic. And one of our friends, he used to always say to me, "Oh, you always make things sound like a big deal. And then when I talk to Brian plays it down and says it's not. And you always look at it worst case scenario." But I wasn't. I was the one that saw it for what it was. And everyone else didn't. They saw the sugar-coated version. And I think it was only at the point where he was told he was terminal that everyone around us realised that I was just being realistic.
Yeah.
And I'd say that going into losing him, being realistic, being straight to the point, not sugarcoating things. I can't do fluff. I have to just know the facts. And that's how I cope with the facts. So when people say, "Oh, your husband," I say, "No, my husband's dead. He died of cancer, blah, blah, blah. This is it." Not, "Oh, my husband passed away and he's away with the angels now." Like, I could never do it like that. I'm really blunt, and I make a lot of people feel very uncomfortable when I talk about him, because even now, if we talk to people, I will, I only married Rich we actually got married on Christmas Eve, just gone. But before then, he was referred to as my boyfriend. So I'd flip between my husband, my boyfriend, my husband, my boyfriend. And it used to make people feel really uncomfortable, because I'd say my husband, my boyfriend, and then someone say, "I'm sorry, is it your husband or your boyfriend?" I go, "No, husband's dead, boyfriend's alive." That's where we're at. And then everyone go, and they don't know what to say. And I go, "It's all right. We're all good. He died a while ago. I'm good. I'm at peace with it. It's very sad." And I'll say it like that. And it sounds cold, but that's the only way I can kind of talk about it. If I start going into thinking, my Brian is dead, my lovely Brian, this, that, imagining him, listening to his voice, that's when it's like a person has been taken, and that's when it becomes sad for me. So I've always coped with it being a person, like a character. This person has died, not my person.
You've just emotionally removed yourself from...
Yeah, but that's how I used to speak about his treatment as well. Like, I would come home and I'd speak to my mother-in-law and I'd say, "Right, this, and this." And she'd say, how are you holding it together?" And I said, "Because he needs me to hold it together." But also, going back to what I said to the doctor when he told me they thought it was leukemia.
Yeah.
What's crying going to do? What do you want me to do? Like, cry? Because crying doesn't make me feel better. When people say have a good cry, it makes me feel like shit. I'm an ugly crier. I get snotty. And I just get really puffy afterwards. And I don't feel better for crying. I feel better for having a glass of wine, or for shouting, or for... Now I go for a run on the treadmill. I don't feel better for crying. Crying makes me feel worse. So I try and avoid crying.
Did you throw yourself into stuff? Like, after Brian died, did you just keep yourself busy? Like,
I couldn't, because it was lockdown, and it was the first lockdown. So it was very much stay in the house. I was actually too scared to open my windows for a couple of weeks because there was that film, wasn't it? Was it The Happening or something, where if people breathed in the air, they then like drove their car into a tree and killed themselves. I thought that was what COVID was. So I wouldn't open my windows. So I literally had us like shut down for a couple of weeks. And I'd look out the window thinking, idiots, why are they in their garden? They're going to die. But then after a while, obviously I had to open the front door because I needed food. So I would say I had one friend who was going through quite a horrible breakup at the time. And me and her just clung together. And she is my best friend. I'd say she's one of my soulmates. I don't believe in one soulmate. I think you can have several. It doesn't have to be a life partner. It can be just a friend. Brian was one of my soulmates. Richard now is my soulmate. But my best friend Joe is also my soulmate. And Richard always jokes like, we're 2 for 1. And when something exciting happens, the first person I call is Joe. It's not him.
That's nice.
Or if he buys me something, like he got me Oasis tickets last year for my birthday. And I was so excited. We were on holiday and he gave them to me. And I didn't even thank him. I got my phone out, rung Joe and was screaming down the phone, we're going to Oasis. And she was like, oh my God, we're going to Oasis. Because Oasis was one of Brian's favourite bands. And he always said if they got back together, I'd love to go and watch them. But he never got to see it. So Rich, bless him, got me tickets to do it for Brian.
That's lovely.
And it felt really special. And he said, you can take whoever you want. And I didn't even think to ask him if he wanted to come. I just rang Jo and told her she's coming.
So he knows his place, Sam Rich.
He does. He does. So yeah, I'd say my coping mechanism was my best friend Jo, and we would ring each other all day, every day through lockdown. Our like Penelope, my daughter, and her eldest daughter Kyla, they would be on FaceTime constantly, and sometimes they would talk about their dads for different reasons. And I'd say we just trauma bonded. And she was the way I coped. And then when lockdown lifted, and then summer 2021, so we were like a year out from when he passed away, I started dating again. I just thought I'd get out there. I was always very open with everyone. That
I was going to say, how did that go? I mean, I don't know. And it's a bit like...
You must have frightened so many people.
Yeah, I imagine
oh my God,
that everybody
it was
has
brutal.
an opinion.
They do. So I thought being widowed would be like a better option than being a single mum. Because there's no ex that you have to deal with.
Oh, what, for potential daters?
For like
mean?
potential people.
Yeah, I guess.
And I thought also it shows that I didn't like, when you break up, you've always got to ask who's to blame, who done what wrong. But no one broke up here. Someone just died. So I was being a really good wife / partner.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm still a good, prospect. But no, saying you're widowed, you just got ghosted, like completely. Wow. People just didn't want to know. I had one person ask me about my finances and said, like, what was my life insurance payout?
Wow.
I had someone else I was talking to. I was saying to him about, like, I've booked this holiday and I'm doing this and I bought a new car. And I worked, like, really hard. And I had a good job. And yes, I did get some life insurance payout, but it doesn't make you a millionaire. It covers a couple of years of their salary, if that. But this guy had a really, really big issue with where my money was coming from, because he felt he was smarter than me and I had more money to burn than him. So that one was like a see you later.
Wow.
But yeah, I met Brian in the pub through friends, and I'd never done online dating, and it was the wildest thing I've ever done. I was probably doing it for 4 or 5 months. I met all sorts of people on there. None of them panned out. And actually, I met Rich when I was online dating, and he just lost Faye. So he lost Faye in July 2021 to breast cancer. Very similar story to mine. She was diagnosed. She went into remission. It came back. They tried everything. and it didn't work. They had a little bit longer with knowing that she was terminal. So she done some really lovely things for their 2 daughters, like wrote them letters and done the memory boxes and stuff like that. Whereas Brian never had a chance to do that. But to be completely honest, he wouldn't have done that. That's not really a man thing. It's more of a mum thing, isn't it? That you try and make the memories. The men don't, they're not programmed that way. So I met Rich. He was broken at that point. Like, Faye was his absolute everything. And they were just such a lovely love story.
You met through Widowed and Young, didn't you? You and Rich.
Yes. Yeah. So we were both members of Widowed and Young. We met through that. We connected because we both live in Essex. We both lost to cancer, and we both had young daughters. And he put out a post, and it just sounded like such a cry for help. Like he was lost. And I was 14, 15 months in then. So I felt a little bit more like I could support. And we started talking. And I would tell, I remember saying to him that I also grew up without my mum. And he said to me, what did your dad do wrong? Or what did he do right? Like, how can I not fuck him up? And I said, honestly, don't shag all the mums in the school. Because my dad's going to kill me. But my dad went through the mums at my school like a steam train. And I just remember always having new best friends. And it's funny now. And to be honest, I didn't have many opinions on it then, but I just...
Were you aware then?
There were a few things that I think I picked up on. But not every one of the mums was available.
Oh, that's awkward.
I'll let you read between the lines on them ones. But that was so when I was at school, there was still like the coffee mornings and all the mums get together for tea and catch ups, and my dad would join. So
and your dad was probably the only dad too, right?
He was, yeah. So I think these women were just like vultures circling, just having a go. And quite literally having a go. But it was quite nice because there was a lot of mums that used to like plait my hair for me and stuff because they'd be trying to impress my dad. So I'd have like French braids and
Wow.
I was okay. But yeah, that was the only bit of advice I said to him: don't go through the mums at school. And luckily he didn't.
Wow.
But yeah, so he and I, we started spending time together with the children. The first thing we done was we took them up to Kidzania in London, and they had fun there. So we did things that were a bit of a struggle, probably more so for him to do solo, because I remember the first time I took Penelope out for dinner when it was just the 2 of us, and our dinner came, and then she said, I need a wee. And I thought, oh, you're 5. I can't send you to the toilet by yourself, but also our food is here and I don't want to leave our food here. And I asked the people next to us if they could watch our food, and we went to the toilet, and I thought, shit, how do you do this? And when I met Rich, I said to him, what do you do when yours need a wee? Because Imogen was 3 at the time and Amelia was 6, 7, I think. So they were young as well. And he said, and he has to take them into the men's with him, or he has to send the 2 of them into the women's and hope that they're okay, but he still has to wait outside. So this is why we started doing things, because he found it hard, I found it hard. At least with us, we could kind of play the family unit, but we were just friends. And luckily, as a bonus, the kids got on. So we started doing like weekends away to Alton Towers and, this, that and the other. And I was dating, and I used to ring him in the evenings, and we used to spend all evening on the phone talking about my dates, or just talking about Brian and Faye, to be honest. And we would talk about everything from like what we used to, how we met each other, and what we done on our first dates, and when we realised we wanted to marry each other. We used to talk about our sex life. Things that you don't really talk about with your close friends about your dead spouse, but we felt quite comfortable talking about it together. We talked about Widow's Fire, which is a real thing, by the way.
I've heard that.
We've heard that.
Oh my God, it just boom gets you. Didn't get rich, but me, it was, it really got me. So I would talk
Wow.
to him about it, and it just explained, like, where my mind was at, and this is why I want to date. And then I went on a date one day with someone who was really, really up for it, and I was not. And the whole day, all I kept thinking was, this guy's such a tool. I can't wait to get in the car and ring Rich and tell him about it. And I rang Rich, and I was on my way home, and I didn't even stay and finish my dinner with this guy. I just said that my daughter's not where I need to leave. And I remember driving through the McDonald's drive-thru, getting myself some dinner on the way home. And I was on the phone to Rich, and I ordered my food, and he was laughing and taking the mickey out of me. And the penny dropped, and I thought, shit, I like him. But it was still so early for him. And we had conversations around it, and we weren't sure like where it would go, but we stayed friends. And I think sometimes he had some maybe more romantic feelings, but wasn't quite in the space where he wanted to admit it yet, because things were still early days with him. And there seems to be this unwritten rule.
Spoil that friendship, would you, as well? It must have
You
been
don't.
so scary. Yeah.
But also, people judge.
Yeah.
Like, if your husband or wife leaves you, or if you split up, 3 months, you're good. You can get back on the horse.
Yeah. People
you're
cheer you on, yeah.
And you do it before a year, there's no way you loved your husband or wife if you've moved on. And I would say the worst people to judge you are other widows.
Really?
Yeah, they're brutal. Absolutely brutal. Oh, well, I'd never do that. I actually loved my husband, though. And sort of, they really get in there. They really like to twist that knife. So Rich struggled with that a bit. And I just said, look, I'm here and I'll wait. And he said, don't wait for me, because I don't know if I ever want to move on. But in my head, I stayed talking to people. I stopped the online dating because that was enough to make me want to be celibate for life, to be honest. And then we did eventually end up together. He'd moved house and we spent more time together. And in the end, he was like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. And we did. So we brought our kids together, and we just, to be honest, I moved in really quickly because we were spending so much time together anyway.
Yeah.
And I used to stay around a couple of nights a week, and I would sleep in the spare room at first with Penelope. And then slowly I would sort of be in his room when the children woke up. And the kids were amazing. They just accepted it, and they really championed it as well. Like, when I used to say to his two, it's, I need to go home today, they'd say, but why do you have to go home? And I remember Amelia saying to me, but why do you have to go home? And I said, I actually have no reason. Like, I can go and do the school run from here. I don't know why I actually have to go home and sleep at home. And then Richard said, like, why don't you just stay here? And I did. I kept my house empty for 6 months before I started renting it out. And then I just stayed there because it made more sense. He was happy of me being around. The children were happier being around. It just sort of worked. And it wasn't easy with everyone around us. But, a few years down the line, everything now is quite accepted. You do shed people, and there are people that can't accept where life's going. And you just have to accept that they can't accept it.
It's just
and
weird,
you have
isn't it?
to let these people shed.
Yeah. It's just weird how many people have an opinion or think they have the right to have an opinion on your life. It's just, that's just,
they tell you how to grieve.
Yeah.
But then they go home and get into bed with their husband or wife that night and expect you to get into bed lonely forever to make them feel more comfortable.
They go home to complete normality. Their world hasn't just been shattered. And it's bizarre. But Amy's like you, Karen. She likes to make people cry and feel uncomfortable with their grief in the supermarket and stuff. So she's got a tally like you. That's the thing that she likes to do. Yeah,
I do. But people are just judgy. And I suppose going more into that subject, like, I think you can either let people dictate how you live or
walk away.
You don't have to fall out with people.
No.
There doesn't have to be an end. It's just, you just drift apart. And I've had a lot of people, I call it a shedding. I feel like a little snake just shedding. And I had like my first shed when I started dating, and then the second shed happened when I moved in with Rich. And actually, since we've got married, I feel like I'm shedding more people again. And I'm okay with that. Like, I have a really solid, well, we have a really solid support system. And our families, and I was saying to you the other day, like, our family is so blended. So I
Yeah.
don't have my mum. Richard lost his mum and dad. And actually, the closest things we have, like, I've still got my dad, love him to bits. But I have my mother-in-law, so Brian's mum, who I'm really close with. And we have Richard's mother-in-law, Irene, that we're really close with. And we have his father-in-law who's remarried, so Derek and Karen, that's Faye's dad and stepmom. We go and stay with them for the weekend with the kids. We've gone on holiday with them. They all came to our wedding on Christmas Eve. And it's not always been easy, and there has been struggles, and sometimes they feel uncomfortable, but we just try really hard to always talk through it. And I think as long as you're not doing anything out of malice, it's okay. Like, you're okay to feel that way. We're okay to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, we are really blended. I'm friends with Faye's aunts and uncles and cousins, and Faye's best friend Tracy is now also one of my best friends. So I've got Joe, who's soulmate best friend, and I've got Tracy, who is my day-to-day. I see her all the time on the school run. We go on family holidays together, and she's been such a good support for me, because she can tell me, like, when I struggle with the girls, she'll say, oh, don't worry, Faye done this, or Faye done that, or this is how Faye handled it. This is what Faye would want. Faye would be really happy with how you're handling things. And it just gives me that reassurance sometimes that I need, because Rich can say I'm doing a good job with the girls. But sometimes I just want to know, like, is Faye up there thinking, oh, you bitch, you're doing it like this? Or is she thinking, like, well done? And Tracy's that person to cheer me on. And to be fair, so's Irene, like Faye's mum. She will give me praise when praise is due.
That's lovely.
She'll also raise her eyebrows when I say stuff sometimes that she doesn't agree with. But I love that about her now. I used to find her really intimidating, but I think she really has accepted me in the role that I am in. Yeah. And now all of her opinions mean a lot. And she's probably one of my favourite people.
That's lovely.
Because I just know that when she says something, she means it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate truth more than you saying what you think I want to hear.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I say to her, do you think I could have done this differently, or do you think that was a bit off? And she will say, maybe, or, she'll give me the truth. And from that, then you can work off of that. And I would say we're really lucky that we've got the support we have, but it's not been easy. And to the outside, and on our Instagram, and we've got a family TikTok account that we post fun videos. Everything looks really happy and rosy. And on the most part, like, it is. But behind the scenes, things are difficult. We're all navigating grief. Our children are navigating grief. Our in-laws are navigating grief, and we are as well.
Do you all do it differently?
Massively, yeah. Like, Rich, I would say, is a slow burner. So if you want to get to a certain point, like him taking his wedding ring off, he only took his wedding ring off from Faye end of last year. No, not last year, the year before, sorry. I keep thinking he was doing 2025. He took it off randomly one day and we were in Venice. I didn't even notice. Whereas for me, I took mine off quite quickly because I didn't feel married anymore, because to me, marriage is a partnership and you can't be in a partnership with someone that's dead. They can still be a husband or wife, and that's another thing. Like, they will never be our ex-husband or ex-wife. They will always be our first husband and wife, and now we're in our second husband and wife. So and I find it quite triggering people saying ex as well, because there was no cut-off.
It wasn't a choice.
Kind of fulfilled our duty, so to speak. But yeah, like he grieves differently. He goes quiet. He can sometimes get quite tearful. I get angry. I can be quite snappy. I can be quite tearful. To be honest, I'm a little bit psychopathic. I've just different personalities. You don't know what one you're getting. But the children grieve kind of similar, but a bit different. And I would say one thing that I learned when I was a child is if I wasn't getting what I wanted, I would use the I miss mummy and hope that that would get me to what I wanted. And I noticed sometimes, especially with two of the children, they will use that as a bit of a negotiating tactic. So if you say it's bedtime, they'll go to bed and then they'll say, I can't sleep. And you say, no, you go to bed. And then it's really unfair because they don't want to go to bed and they're telling you, I get bullied at school because I have to go to bed so early. And then you end up in an argument and then it's, but I miss daddy or I miss mummy. And at that point, you then give them your focus and they know that that's how they get you. So I'm able to see when you're using it as
when you're being manipulated.
tool.
Yeah,
Exactly. And sometimes I feel really mean, like especially like Penelope, I don't feel as mean, but when I do it with Imogen, I walk downstairs and I say to Rich, like, by the way, I don't think she's actually feeling that right now. And he's like, it's okay. I understand. But I think, did he sit there and listen to me and think, that cold bitch, why is she not hugging her? Why is she telling her to be quiet and go to bed? But I just know from experience, when I used to do it, EastEnders used to be on. My dad would only let me watch the first 15 minutes and it was on for 30 minutes. And I thought, okay, if I say I miss mummy, he would let me sit with him and we would talk about mummy quietly whilst watching EastEnders. And then at the end of EastEnders, I'd be, I'm okay now. I can go to bed. And he cottoned onto it. So I know the tricks that you play as a bereaved child. But also I know what they're going to experience going through life, first breakups, periods, getting married. Like I've done twice now and I, go wedding dress shopping and I stand there in my dress and I just think I wonder what my mum would say now. Like I wish my mum was there to give me this advice or this motherly, whatever it is mums do. But even at school, I used to think I don't have someone saved in my phone as mum. And that I really craved having, like, I was jealous of people that would be like, I'm just going to text my mum. That I used to put my stepmom in my phone as mum sometimes, but it never felt right. Or I'd say to a stranger, I'm going to ask my mum. And just to feel normal. But it wasn't normal. And I know that our three are going to feel like that about their mum and their dad. And sometimes, like with Amelia especially, some of her friends in the playground would say, go and ask your mum if you can come around for a play date. And she'd say, okay. And she'd come over and go, can I go for a play date? She doesn't call me mum. And I don't expect them to, and I don't want them to, because I'm not their mum. I'm like the bonus. But you can see in their head sometimes they want to refer to me as mum to feel normal and to not look different.
Have you spoke to them
I get
about
it.
that? Have you told them that you was the same and that you all them was going through your head as well?
Yeah. I've had not so much with Imogen because she's only 8, but Amelia is 12. She's just gone into year 7. And I do have that conversation with her. And when she's struggling, she misses her mum. I say to her, like, I'm the same. Like, I'm 32 years in and I still miss my mum. I wouldn't say it's the same kind of miss. It's more, I miss what I think it could be.
Yeah.
But I don't have, like, the sadness in my stomach. And I think this is how grief doesn't leave. I think it just evolves. For me now, I grieve the life that I should have had with my mum. I don't really grieve her as a person anymore. It's just what it could have been. And this is what I try and explain to the girls. Like, you feel really sad and you miss her in your stomach now, but at some point that feeling will change and the feeling in your stomach will possibly come when you have babies or when you're getting married. But, I'll be here and it's not quite the same, but I can do the things that a mum would do. And we can do it while we remember your mum.
Yeah.
We talk about, like, Brian and Faye all the time. I'd say I probably talk about Faye more than Rich talks about Faye. And it's really silly things. I don't like it to be too deep. And again, drawing back to my childhood.
Yeah, the nail varnish and things like that.
Like I don't want the kids to feel like they can't bring up their mum and dad. So we are very open about, we can talk about them. We have their ashes in the lounge
pictures up of them as well.
Yeah, we don't have loads of pictures up, but I'm just not a big picture person, but they do, all three of them have a family photo in their bedrooms. And that was a request of Faye. She wanted a photo of her in the girls' bedrooms so she could watch over them when they sleep. And I thought that was lovely. So they always had that photo, and Penelope asked if she could have the same so that she wasn't different. So now she has a photo of me, her dad, and then my two stepdaughters who are both grown up now, who were Brian's daughters. So she has that. So we talk about them, but it's more of a, God, you really looks like your mum just then, or like
that would mean so much. Like to somebody
this is it.
Mum's still there. They go, oh, don't say that. I don't want to look like her, but it means so much to them. Do you think
it does?
Imagine going into a relationship with you and Penelope with two of the children that were grieving. I would think you'd have even more issues there.
Oh, definitely.
You're sort of going in on I know everybody's grief is unique and all that, but you're going in sort of on a status quo, aren't you? That you're all, even on your own journeys, you're going forward together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I grew up with step siblings, but their dad was around. My stepmom and their dad just broke up. Yeah. So they would go to their dads. And although they were upset that their mum and dad weren't together, they were still alive.
Yeah.
And that caused conflicts as well. So for us, I feel like it's a positive that everyone is in the same boat, children-wise. It also, like, we had the conversation of, would we have a baby together? And we sort of went in and out of it. And we landed on, actually, no, we won't, because we will bring a child into the world that will have not only their mum and dad, but they will have their mum and dad together. And we don't want the current children to feel like they're less special because there would be one that we had together. So we completely put that one to bed.
Have you spoke to the kids?
Oh my goodness. The kids want a baby brother. Like, there is no tomorrow.
No, but they do not
get fed up at asking. They will. And we always say, like, especially the older two, they're like, I just want a little sibling. And we say, but you've got Immy. Oh, no, she's annoying. I don't want her. And that's kind of how they are. So we just said, no more kids. We will get married, but we don't want any more babies. We've got 2 dogs. We've got a cat. You know, it's mental at home already. But yeah, no more babies, and we just want to focus on them, because I think if you add, for us, and I know other widowed families that do have another child and it works beautifully for them.
Yeah.
For us, it wasn't our journey. And 3 is a lot.
Do you still speak to anybody else, like any other widows, or have you and Rich kind of just thought, do you know what, we've got each other, we get it, we don't really need, or do you still do the whole widowed and young thing? And
we didn't renew our membership with Widowed and Young, just because I didn't feel like I was really getting much from it anymore. A lot of people, in my opinion, were still really in the depths of their grief, and they weren't moving on, isn't the right word, but they
making choices.
They were kind of they were stuck in the same position. They weren't moving anywhere. And for me, I've always wanted life to move forward. It doesn't mean leaving someone behind. You can bring that memory with you.
Yep.
But I
wanted to move forward. Do you think that's because you experience grief is all you've known? So all you've known is carrying people with you. You know, you haven't really known any different, I guess. So that's quite almost standard for you. Like, you know, okay, well, they've died, but I already know I'm not going to forget them. Whereas for me, that's a massive, you know, the first person I'd ever lost that was close to me was my 99-year-old nan, died on her 100th birthday. 6 months before my son died, and I'd never lost anybody. So, I got to 45 and hadn't lost anybody.
Yeah.
So then that was really scary for me. So then when Bradley died, I'm kind of thinking, my first fear was I'm going to forget him. But I suppose, I don't know, do you not have, I guess you don't have that fear because that's all you've known.
I don't need photos. I don't need anything like material to remember. Even like my mum, my father-in-law, my husband, I don't need them. It's all up here and it's all here.
It gives me a great reassurance when you started the podcast and said I still think of my memories of my mum every day.
God, yeah.
Even though I don't really remember a lot. And I thought that, even as a child, like you said, and you don't have the massive amount of memories because of your age, you still think of them all the time. And that, for me, felt really comforting than one of the first things you said.
Yeah. I think you have to not let yourself forget. And I suppose the great thing about in this day and age is we all have phones. Yeah. I can scroll through my phone and look at videos, silly videos, snapshots of Brian doing things, or, live photos where they move a little bit. You didn't have that back in 1994. You had a camcorder maybe, or your photos were posed. So I think if you are able to remember something from back then, your ability to remember and replay things now is so much easier because you have access to all of these things that you can just store. And I sit there and watch videos of Brian all the time still. All the time. I sit there with Penelope and watch them. I watch them with Rich. I show Rich these silly videos of Brian pretending to be a YouTuber making slime. Yeah, I don't think you can ever forget someone that you truly love. You just can't. Like, not your body will not allow you to forget them.
No.
They just won't, and that's how it will always be for you two.
Yeah.
And for your families as well. Like, you can't. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't forget them because they are you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like for you carried your children and you've lost them. For me, my mum carried me and I lost her.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even disconnect that if you tried.
No.
Did you ever go back and speak to your dad when you was growing up, when you got a bit older, and speak about how you felt you couldn't speak to the adults when you was younger? Did you ever talk about that?
I didn't, but I would say being widowed, like my dad, has brought us closer. And I've realised some of the things and some of the way that he parented makes so much more sense now.
Okay.
And I remember him getting very angry about things. I remember I didn't eat my dinner one day and he flipped the table up out of anger. And I remember thinking, like, no one else's dad does that. But actually thinking back now, like, A, my brother was a bit of a shithead. B, so was I. And my dad was trying to parent us and pay the bills and work and, and grieve at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was kicking off about what brand fish fingers I was eating. So I get it more now. And I say to him, like, I understand now where you were at, or when you were at this point, how did you handle this? How did you handle conflict when you were making choices that other people didn't accept? So I'd say, unfortunately, me and my dad have become closer since I've been widowed because we're in the same club. And and Rich asks him stuff as well about how he handled things. But no, I never really asked why we had to keep quiet. There was a lot of conflict between my dad and my mum's side, and that's all I've known from a child right up till now. Like, both sides can't really stand each other. There's a lot of blaming going on. Me and my brother were in the crossfire.
That's sad, isn't it?
So we really have always known bereavement and conflict. So life now seems really rosy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It does. But yeah, I'd say going through what I did at a young age has definitely taught me how I want to get our children through grief.
Yeah.
And it's not, they're never going to come out the other side of it. None of us do. We learn to live with it and channel it in whatever way suits us. And I don't think there's really any right or wrong way.
No, but you can help.
There's only what's right or wrong for
with
you.
that channeling, can't you?
Yeah.
And I think there's probably so much more out there now. Still not enough in schools and everything, but there's so much more out there to go to for the kids, or for you to go. Say if you needed help, you can go to Winston's Wayshaw or wherever and just get advice, and it's there. It's click on your phone and you've got, oh wow, never thought of that.
No, definitely. But
yeah, wow. Well, I really appreciate you coming and sharing all of that with us today.
I feel like all I've done is just talk at you both.
No,
an hour.
It's nice to have a laugh, actually. We really appreciate your honesty.
I
think your bravery, and admire you for how you were doing it.
Yeah.
I
think that whole conflict with other people is just having, like you say, just the bravery, the confidence, I don't know, just the decision to say, this is my choices, and just to stand affirmed with them, really, because I think too many, me included, too many people sort of hide under the pressure of other people's opinions, don't they? And that's really hard then, and that can really impact how much you enjoy your life, can't it? And
100%.
Yeah.
You know, but you've allowed...
We've all been through the shit, so why can't we do what we want to do? As long and as I said earlier, as long as you're not doing it with malice, you're doing nothing wrong. It's not your fault that other people can't cope with how you're coping.
No,
that's a them problem. It doesn't mean you can be flippant and be like, off you go, see you later, I don't care. But it's not your problem that they don't like how you're coping.
No. And people are always going to have opinions, so
no matter what, you will never do right by everyone.
No.
It's like planning a wedding, isn't it? You're not going to have everyone there say that you've done everything brilliant. They'll always have notes on what could have improved.
Table of 10 with 10 people that actually speak to each other is hard.
I know.
Yeah, it is.
Did you enjoy your wedding day?
I had the best time.
God,
it was so good. It was so chilled out. We got married at Old Marylebone Town Hall in London. And then we went to Hawksmoor, which is our favourite steak restaurant. We just had 30 of our sort of nearest and dearest. Couldn't have everyone there, but we've both got quite a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles and family members. So we just chose more of our like day-to-days.
Yeah.
And just had a really amazing time. Got married Christmas Eve. And then we were home in our pyjamas by 6:30 in the evening.
Amazing.
Having a cup of tea. Perfect.
Amazing.
And then we hosted Christmas Day. So yeah, it was really special. It was really nice. And actually my wedding ring is my mum's wedding ring.
Oh.
So I asked my dad, for my wedding ring or my engagement ring with Brian was platinum, but now I've gone for yellow gold this time. And my mum's wedding ring is just a plain yellow gold band. And I said to my dad, can I see if it fits? I don't want to tamper with it at all. But if it fits, can I please have it? And it fits perfectly.
Wow.
So now I've got my mum's wedding ring and it just feels really special. I'd say this time around it just felt a lot more sentimental. My dad and his partner made my flowers for me, and they're artificial so that I can keep them. And it was just really, really lovely. And it felt like the perfect end to last year. Yeah. And this year now we can just keep going.
Get on with it now, yeah.
That's it. And stop rabbiting on about being widowed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with us.
Me. So find a comfortable spot.
No. She gets it wrong every fucking
Grab yourself
time.
a cuppa.
Find a comfortable spot.
And we'll journey
through grief together. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.